Right, time to move on to the seat. Got a slab of London plane. It does have this knot in it which concerns me a little, although it disappears in the middle of the wood somewhere, so this will be the sort of front edge, so a lot of this will get carved away. I'm hoping we'll be left with some smooth wood, but it's all very solid, so I don't think its bits are going to fall out. We've got some live edge, so it bevels in, so I'm going to make this the underside, because it doesn't matter if there'll be a bevel underneath anyway, so we'll lose a lot of that. It's currently sitting a little bit wobbly on the surface, and that side a little bit, so it's not completely flat. What I tend to do is cut the seat shape out first before I start flattening it, so there's less to do, because I do that with a hand plane. So it's just a case of put the template on, centre it up as seems reasonable, and then draw around it. Not bothering putting any details on, because obviously we're going to plane the surface off. So there we are, over to the bandsaw, cut that out. So, to hold the seat in place, which only use 4 dogs, and the 2 go in the vise. So I'll start off with the scrub plane, which has got the curved blade.
After the scrub plane, I use a jack plane and a jointing plane to finish the surface off. The surface doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, as a lot of this will be carved again at some stage. However, we need the seat to sit flat on the bench so we can work on it at the next stage.
It's not perfect, but sitting nice and flat, so that's good enough. So this is our bottom. Put our markings on. This pattern is designed to have to be marked from the bottom. The difference between the bottom and the top is, because we're drilling the leg holes at an angle, they come out in a slightly different position on the other side, because it's sort of 2 inches thick. So if you want consistency, if you're going to make a similar chair again, make it the same way. Always do your holes one way or the other based on the template on how you've done it. Because if you were to drill these holes from the bottom and drill them from the top using the same template, same positions, the holes wouldn't line up because of the thickness of the wood. So, get that centered. And then mark our center line. Wouldn't really use a Sharpie. Use a pencil. Use a pencil so it's easier to take the marks off. So mark the 4 leg positions. And mark our centre line on. So this one here joins up with our rear legs, and it's going to be 24 degrees, so mark that up. When it comes to chair making, it's a good idea to mark everything up as you go along. It's very easy to make mistakes. Oh, I missed the hole there. Let's pop that back on. So that's the line for our front leg. That's going to be 18 degrees. So these are the sight lines. Two different angles, 24 degrees, 18 degrees we're going to use here. But this is the line that is you use, so it's in that plane perpendicular, even though it's angled out 18 degrees. The same with this one. It'll be perpendicular in that plane, but angled out at 24 degrees. How much to angle it out? It all depends on the design of the chair, the look you're going for. It's not critical, it's more sort of aesthetic really. There are practical considerations. If the legs come out too much towards the front, you're prone to tripping over them. If they're too narrow, the chair perhaps is a little bit more prone to getting knocked over or tripped, it's not quite so stable. So it's trying to find the right balance between how it looks, how it functions, and how you want it to look. So you can play around with these angles, but it's a good idea to start with an angle that has been used before. So you can try it out, and then you can modify it based on how the chair looks. And I think in the next chair I'm going to make that a bit more or a bit less, and adjust it accordingly. So that's the bottom of the chair marked. We're now going to transpose these lines around. I'll make our centre line come round camera. So on the top of the seat, we're not going to mark the leg holes because that's coming in from underneath, but we will put our centre line on, which we'll use when it comes to shaping the seat. But we will take a roughly 1.5 inches or so line around to mark where our this bit's going to stay flat for the sticks to go in, or the spindles. We'll then come down about 6 inches, 150 mil. Extend the line across. There you go, roughly 4 inches either side of that. So I'm going to use these to mark the low point, the bit where our backside sits in there, which will be the bottom of our saddle. So we'll drill some depth holes there, which will scoop the seat down to. Right. Next step, we'll drill out the leg holes from the other side. So one final thing I do before I start drilling is to mark a 90-degree line from the sight line and the drill hole, which I'll use to line up the laser from the side. Only mark it on one side. I tend to have one laser following this line and one laser following that line.
This is a simple homemade laser using a laser line that could be angled around a pivot point to set it to the desired angle. The laser is then set using a homemade protractor. Okay, so we've got our two lines, the sight line and one struck off at 90 degrees to it. I put a little mark just on the edge so we can line the laser up with that edge. First of all, we're just going to put a dimple in there to help keep the drill centered. I like to put a little block of wood there, right on our mark so we can line up the laser. So take our first laser, which is set to 90 degrees, and line that up so it's hitting on our mark here and hitting the block. So that's the first one. Then this second one is set to 24 degrees. Coming on this side, we get ready to hit here and hit the mark. Doesn't matter that the clamp's in the way because the line will go along. Okay, and this is clamped nice and solid so it doesn't shift at all. So we've got our two lasers crossing just here. We'll then take a drill with this is a 16mm bit, auger bit. These drill bits are very good, cut a nice sharp hole, but as the tooth in the middle isn't terribly long, you have to start off vertical and then bring it down to our angle. So we put that on the centre, we line up the laser with the centre of the drill this way, and as we drill we want to drop this down until this laser is on this line here. So we should end up with a laser down the middle here and here. I have previously marked a line on the drill, but get it centered there and drill through. So we start off. So I'm watching the laser on here to make sure it stays in alignment. So making sure the clutch is up. Okay, so straight, and drop that down. But the whole time I'm watching the two laser lines on the drill. Make sure we keep them aligned. The other one's a bit ancient. Right, so our red line is touching at the back. So we can take one of our legs and we can turn it so it's on one of the ridges up the leg, so and again on there. So that's pretty good. However, I can feel underneath the leg is not going all the way through, so we'll need to go a little bit deeper. We basically need to be able to feel this all the way through the hole because this is a thicker seat. Yeah, about another quarter of an inch maybe. I'll take it a little bit further. Well, just about there. Bear in mind we're going to be saddling the top of the seat, so that's going to work out about right. The remaining holes are then drilled and reamed, remembering to change the angle from the front to the back legs, as these are different. Once all 4 holes are drilled and reamed, we can test the legs just to make sure it looks okay. Right, to mark up the seat blank, we're going to take a bevel off the bottom side, and we go about a third, just estimate, and that'll be precise. Obviously we're going to
run into that there. And then from the top side, mark a line up there, which will take it down to round that front edge off. Roughly. Again, we'll blend this in the corners where the spindle deck, or the stick deck, we won't call it, comes down to here. We'll work that out as we get to it. 2 points marked here, which we use to drill down to set our depth for how far we're going to saddle the seat. I use a drill bit that isn't a brad point, so we don't want to have a point that goes deeper than where we want to go, and generally use a bit of tape to gauge the depth. About 20 mil, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. Right, next we're going to start hollowing out the seat. The main part in the middle here. To start with, is coming in this way. We'll then start working on these bits, but we will leave this bit alone. So to start with, add a little bit of shape into it towards the end. We'll keep clear of our spindle deck. Now, there's various ways of doing this. Well, one way is with the trebuchet, and this is used across the grain. Our grain is running this way, so
to speed up shaping the seat, I use the Arbortech turbo plane. This is fast and effective, but does generate a lot of flying chips, so eye protection is absolutely essential. This is also why I do it outside, because it makes a right mess of the workshop otherwise. So here we have the seat after we've used the Arbortech on it, the turbo plane. This defect is a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. I've actually chiseled out, off camera, chiseled out any loose bark, any soft areas, so we're back to fairly hard wood. So I haven't quite decided whether to fill this with like a resin, which then would perhaps still give the option of leaving the wood natural, or just to use a wood filler and then paint the seat. I'm thinking of painting the chair anyway, so that might be a better way to go. But anyway, we'll see how we go. We're now going to move on to finessing the shape with the trebuchet. We've still got our 2 reference areas here that we drilled, the 2 drill holes, and they've got about 3mm still to go, so we can still see those. We've still got our centre line marked here and here. Won't bother drawing it back on because we're going to carve that off. And this area so far hasn't been touched. That's still the original surface. So we're going to work that down at some stage, but leave a little bit here at full height as our reference for the centre line, where to put the centre line, which we'll need when we come to levelling the chair up. So for now, we'll carry on with the trebuchet. Now the grain is running this way, so the trebuchet on this side will probably work better coming around this side, because grain is sort of this way. If we go this way, it's likely to want to dig in. But with the trebuchet, the idea with this is that you tip it forward and then lower it down to control the depth of the cut. Skewing it a little bit as well generally helps the cut. If it's starting to catch or tear, you can sort of skew it the other way, depending on which way the grain's running. The surface of the seat is worked smooth using a cabinet scraper. The edges of the seat are smoothed and shaped with a combination of spoke shaves and scrapers. This helps to remove all the saw marks and even out any irregular surfaces. I use a small LED light panel to check for surface imperfections. I go over the seat, circling any areas that need further attention with a pencil. Using raking light is the best way to find any imperfections and deal with them. I decided to use a 2-part filler to fill in the knot hole. This is fast and easy to use as it sets so quickly. This can be sanded 15 minutes after application. I decided at this stage that the seat would definitely be painted.